What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a vintage Kenner Star Wars market update. There were a ton of items that have sold over the last week or so. So much so that I could not put them all in one video. I am mainly covering mint on card items as well as a few packaged items, graded, ungraded, all over the map. And if you remember from the video a couple of days ago, that the vintage collection the prices seem to be kind of leveled off, if not declining, for a number of different figures. And one of the reasons that I brought up as a potential cause for it is the holidays. And the fact that people are spending money on their family and also all the pre-orders and things like that. But I think when I look at the vintage Kenner prices that are selling right around the same holidays, I think we can rule out the holidays as being a cause for prices. I'm not seeing a slowdown at all. There are a couple exceptions. There were some good deals in here, okay? I'll say that. But for the most part, the prices continue to be staggering, eye-popping numbers for a lot of these closed auctions. And so much so that I don't know if you can really blame the holidays for the decline in the TVC prices. Maybe we'll see as we get into January and February whether the vintage collection, TVC 1.0, and some of these older figures, whether those resale prices come back up again. But I don't know. I think that there's something else broader going on with the vintage collection. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's go ahead and dig right in. We're going to start with some of the earliest card backs that were out there. This was a beautiful 12-back B C-3PO AFA 80 that sold at auction. 35 bids. It was over in Canada. It sold for $1,639 and change plus shipping. So about, let's call it $1,660 was the final sales price. It was a beauty. Card was an 80, blister 85, figure 85, and just a really, really nice item. That's kind of in line. That price is kind of in line with where they've been selling. I mean, $1,400 to $1,600 for a near mint example for a 12-back B especially. So it's a little bit earlier card back. I don't think that's outside of the realm of where they've been selling. So this one went a little higher than I expected, a lot higher than I expected. I was thinking more like $1,500-ish for this Death Squad Commander. And while it would have been awfully tempting, I went a little bit cheaper route. I bought one for about 25% or less, 25% of the price of this one. I got a beautiful 31 back from, and it's on my Instagram, at Action Figure Grader on Instagram if you want to take a look at it. It was a beautiful example, though. It's probably going to score an 80 plus all day long with Collector Archive or AFA. But thank you again to Chris W. and the rest of the folks over at Rogue 5 Toys over on Facebook. It's a great Facebook sales page. I encourage you to check it out. But they sold me an Empire Strikes Back 31 bag that was gorgeous. But this is one that I would definitely like to add to my collection this year, something like this, a 12-back B or C Death Squad Commander. This one was 80, 85, 80. It sold for $1,915. That's a big number to me. I was thinking more like 1,500-ish is where that one would sell. But it was a really nice example and sold for big money. Let's see. We also had this one. This was, I believe, an ungraded 12-back C R2-D2. R2-D2s are going to continue to skyrocket in price. There is no slowdown on R2-D2 prices. This one had a little bit of sticker residue here in the upper left-hand corner. It did not look like it was a litho tear. It just looked like leftover sticker residue. That will come off with a certain type of alcohol that you can use, or letter fluid, as has been mentioned by viewers of the channel. So make sure you use the right kind, otherwise it'll leave a stain on the card back. But really nice example. That one sold for $1,425 plus shipping, about $1,450 overall. It's probably an overall AFA 80 once you clean up that sticker residue. It's a really, really pretty example. And then this one also was a little bit of a shocker on the low end. This one was a 21-back B Death Star Droid, overall 80, 85, 80 were the sub scores. But that one sold for $811, which I thought was a great deal. It was just kind of ended at a weird time. It was 8:05. I guess it wasn't that weird of a time. It was on a Sunday. But I don't know. I thought that was a great deal, whoever got that one. That was well below where I thought it would go. I told Chris W. Probably, he and I were kind of watching this one as it was ending. I think he actually bid on it too. But I told him that $900 would take it home. And I think that would have been right. I think that would have been right. There's, maybe not, but that $811 seems like a great lower price, on the lower end of the range for that Death Star Droid 21 back B. And this seller had a number of 12-inch items that were absolutely gorgeous. That's what she said. But this one was the Leia, 12-inch Leia, AFA 80 overall. That one sold for $582. I thought that was a steal of a deal for a beautiful packaged Leia. And you know, we've seen some in recent market updates for the vintage Kenner that have sold very high. I mean, we've saw some crazy prices for these 12-inch figures, and the Luke sold for $584. I thought both of those were fantastic deals. The R2-D2 maybe not so much. That one sold for $1,800 and change. But you know, I know we've seen some of these 12-inch figures, like there was a Han Solo that sold, and a C-3PO that sold, and I think there was an IG-88 that sold at auction. It was lower, it was like AFA 60, but it sold for like $4,000. So, you know, maybe the R2-D2 might be a little high, but I don't know. That seems like that's probably in line. But the Luke and the Leia, for sure, were fantastic deals, in my opinion. This one was another one that I was chomping at the bit to want to buy, but I didn't do it. It was a 31 back A Hoth Stormtrooper, overall AFA 80, and it was $875 best offer accepted. So I think it was closer to $800. Might have been $825 was the offer I received from that seller. So great deal on that one. That was just a beautiful example of the 31 back A debut card Imperial Stormtrooper. Here was the 32 back AFA 80 plus Han Solo. That one was listed for $1049.95. Best offer accepted. I didn't look up the 130point.com best offer, so I apologize. I've got such a limited window right now during the holiday season with my kids out of school and all the noise. Like yesterday, I was watching 7 kids by myself, so filming these are really tough. And I did, you know, I got so much going on that I forgot to look up the best offer on this one, but I want to say it was in the $950 range. But just a gorgeous example. I think I got an offer from that seller. I was watching it, and the seller sent over an offer, and it was very quickly accepted by somebody else who was watching it. But anyway, nice clear blister. That one sold. And here's one that sold at auction, and I don't know what is going on with Yoda these days. Now, again, this is the debut card, 32 back B Yoda, but it was punched, and the footer had, just like mine, the footer had come up beside the figure, and I actually was able to slide mine back in, believe it or not. I showed that on Instagram, but my footer looked exactly like that when it got done at grading, and somehow I was able to, I tried it over the course of like 3 or 4 months, and I finally got that footer to slide back underneath Yoda's feet. But anyway, so this one had the footer issue, and it was punched. It was an AFA 80, so really nice, and it did have 2 high subgrades, but it had one lower. It had a 70 subgrade for the blister. So it was 90, 70, 90 for an overall 80. And I don't know why it got a 70. It's hard to tell. Oh, yeah, there it is. You can see at the bottom of the stem there, on the right-hand side of that bottom of that stem, it had some crunch going on. But, man, that is a high price, $1,527. 47 bids. That's just a really, really high price. I think you can do much better than that buying one yourself ungraded. Even now, even in the current environment, I mean, 500 to 550 will get you in a similar condition, Yoda. But wow, that is an insane number. So as a reference point, this time last year, I decided to get some Yodas. I got the 32 back just like this. I got the Palatoy Tri logo, and I got a graded Sakuda Japanese sticker card back, Return of the Jedi. It was yellowed, but it was already graded. But the other 2 were not graded. They both graded very high with collector archive services. For all 3 of those, I paid this same amount or less for that someone paid for this one. So Yoda has gone completely insane. Yoda and R2-D2 especially have gone completely insane on price, and that number seems really, really high. I think you can do a lot better than that. So no offense to whoever paid that, but that is a massive overpay in my opinion. This is one I thought it was a great deal for whoever got this one. This was a 41 back E Princess Leia, unpunched. It did have that ugly Toys R Us sticker, but I know there's a lot of folks that do like those. And it was a beautiful clear blister, unpunched, like I said, and probably an overall 80 grade. But $839 took that one home. I thought that was a fantastic deal. Whoever got that one, that's where I was hoping. I was thinking about bidding on this one before I came to my senses, but I was picturing $800 to $900 would be the final sales price, in an ideal world. So I'm glad to see it didn't go too crazy. This one was also one that I thought was a little high. It was a yellowed blister R2-D2 on the 45 back Star Wars display arena. It was an 80 overall, 80, 80, 85, but it was pretty heavily yellowed. Unpunched, though. That one sold for $7.19 plus shipping. I don't know. It's probably about right. I mean, anything R2-D2 these days, high grade, yellow blister or not, I mean, this is what you're going to pay these days for an R2-D2. There's just so many focus collectors for R2 out there. Here was a 45 back, same card back, the Star Wars display arena. Quite a bit of degradation on the Boba Fett, though, which is common for a lot of these ESBs. You can see that the paint is starting to degrade pretty heavily, and the plastic's starting to discolor. It's probably like a 75 grade Boba Fett at best. But anyway, you know, the blister looked like it's also pulling away if you look at the top of that blister. So you got to be careful on these ungraded items, but you know, you can see there it's pulling away a little bit, but that's still sold. It's still sold for $3,056. So very, very high number in my opinion for a blister that's pulling away. You know, if you happen to be the person that bought it, congrats. I mean, it's a beautiful item, but just make sure you get some blister support for that bad boy, because that is definitely precarious looking with that litho damage up there. Let's see if you disclose that in there. Small dents. Part of the bubble, yeah. So part of the top bubble seal has lifted. So, you know, again, he says the bubble is fully attached, item is sealed. So, you know, at least the seller disclosed that, and I'm not trying to disparage the seller at all, but you know, you as the buyer paying $3,056 for that, for a blister that is on the verge of pulling away, that seems like a pretty big overpay to me. Now, this seller had a couple of Revenge of the Jedi, which is my favorite card, or one of them anyway. 48 back C's. This one sold for a great deal. Chris was mentioning this. Chris from Rogue 5 Toys on Facebook. He's like, nobody wants the AT-AT Commander on this card back, and I think it looks awesome. I mean, it's just a fantastic card back. The blue behind the figure really pops with that blue on the sticker, and the blue in the sky on the background. It's a gorgeous card. I don't know what it is about this card, but people just don't seem to want it. They always sell cheap. This one sold for $227.50, probably a low 80 grade. Really nice, unpunched. So I was really surprised to see that one sell as low, but Chris is like, I'm not surprised at all. Nobody wants it. And this one was another one I thought was a great deal. Unpunched, gorgeous example. As near mint as it gets to me for this one. Revenge of the Jedi, Sand People, that was a great deal. $460 took that one home. That was probably one I probably should have bought, and I'll probably would be kicking myself when these are going for $800 this time next year. Some packaged items are interspersed throughout here. This is one that was an AFA 80 tripod laser cannon, Return of the Jedi. That one sold for $300, as you can see there. Pretty nice shape overall. That's a little bit higher. That's probably about a 50% premium versus last year, or what this Return of the Jedi. The Empire Strikes Back one is a little bit more desirable, obviously, just given that's the correct movie for that scene. But the Return of the Jedi one has always been kind of 150 to 200 for an AFA 80. So now it looks like it's more like 300. And then this one was also a great deal. Whoever picked this one up, this one was a flawless speeder bike. I really thought about bidding on this, but again, I'm just trying not to spend any money. But that flap is almost always folded or has a crease on it, as you know. But this one was a near mint sealed example. Just really great shape. That one sold for $291 plus shipping. Great deal. Great deal. That's an AFA 80 or 80 plus all day long, if not an 85. Here was an AFA yellowed 80 Han Solo in trench coat with the camo lapel. Obviously, we all know that the lapel comes in either camo or plain lapel. I think mine's the camo version. I had the same car back, 77 back A. That one sold for $326. That's about going rate right now for Han in his trench coat. That's another one, that's another character that's been creeping up in price a lot. I see a lot of loose, ungraded camo or plain lapel Han Solo in his Endor trench coat. I see those sell for a pretty big penny nowadays, so that one's definitely creeping up. This one was a little bit of a surprise on the high end, but it was an AFA 85 yellowed 65 back Gamorrean Guard, very slightly yellowed. I think that it just must be the inner tray that had yellowed on that one, but I guess that's not too bad of a price, really, because the blister looks really clear to me. I think it's just that inner tray that holds the figure that had yellowed. But anyway, that one sold for $456. So data point there for those of you who are Gamorrean Guard collectors. Really pretty unpunched example. This one was a shocker. This one definitely sold higher than I expected. This was an AFA 85, but pretty heavily yellowed Princess Leia in her Bausch disguise. Is it Bouche or Bausch? I always say Bausch, but then I hear some YouTubers say Bouche. So whichever it is, that's what this figure was. But this is one that's probably on my short list to get. I think I'd probably like to get the tri-logo version. It's obviously pretty expensive, but I think if I go that route, I probably would aim for that one. Or maybe like a Palatoy. The Palatoys tend to have a little bit better chance at staying clear on the blister. But anyway, that one's over $610. So big number there for the Bausch or Bouche. And then a couple of Droids items sold. DC Vintage Toys and Collectibles on eBay. They always price it right at the upper end where it's very uncomfortable to pay that price, but it's just enough. It's just close enough to market value that you're willing to pay that slight premium. I always feel like they're about 10% overpriced. But this is one that sat on the market for a while. But I don't know if it's because the Droids card backs are being reissued right now in the vintage collection line with those Target exclusives, Boba Fett, R2, and 3PO. But I feel like the Droids vintage are starting to really creep up in price, and it might just be the nostalgia. These deep-pocketed collectors that see these new reissues coming out and how awesome they look, and like, well, I've got the money, I'm going to go ahead and buy the originals. And no offense if you do. I mean, I would do it too if I had deep pockets, but this was a beautiful Tig From. Tig From continues to go up in price, though. It was like $800-900-ish. Now it's more like $1,100. But it was a gorgeous clear blister. I think why it sat so long in the market is because it sat for about a year. The card sub-score was a 75, so I think that's probably why it mainly, for these collectors that are dropping $1,000 or $1,100 on these, I think a lot of them try to get all like me. Not that I spend this kind of money regularly, but if I do, I try to have sub-scores that are all in the 80s or 85, that kind of thing. But it did have a blister sub-score of a 90. Yeah, a blister sub-score of a 90. So that's a nice item. I mean, that's a beautiful item. And the Tig From is one of the more expensive figures in the line. But anyway, $1,100 took that one home. And then this one, Size From, has really jumped. I mean, good Lord. This time last year, I saw one get listed. It was a AFA 75. Might have even been an 80 for $800-ish. And it was mint on card, $800. And now you can, for an AFA 80, you can probably at a minimum double that to about $1,600. This one was an AFA 70. It sold for $1,200 on 21 bids over in Canada. So Tig From even loose is like $700 now. So in high grade. So really beautiful item though. So that gives you some data points. But again, the premise of this video, the start of this video, I'm like, the vintage collection price flattening and declining. Is it because of the holidays? This data tells me that that's not the case. So the holidays are not slowing prices for the most part for vintage Kenner items at all. I mean, there were a few good deals in this lot, but they were few and far between relative to some of these that sold at a massive premium versus where I thought they would sell. If you're new to the channel and you like this kind of price information, I try to put these videos out regularly. For all my existing subscribers as well as my Patreon supporters, as always, I want to say thank you for all that you do to help support the channel. Happy holidays to everyone. I'm not sure what my video release schedule is going to be like this week with family in town. I've got a family wedding this weekend too. So just a lot going on in the action figure grader household, but hopefully I'll have some time to sneak in a few more videos for you. Thanks so much, and I'll be back soon.